What's going on, guys? This is another shit tier list. This one is going to be all about what units we think have the highest IQ in the game. Now, this is a little difficult because there is like animated objects that have no real idea, like no real brain, so it's going to be kind of a little bit subjective in that sense. The thing I think we really need to check out is like no brain, no clue. So like things that have no brain right off the bat, right? We definitely put inanimate objects like an APS down there, I think. We put the atom down there. And like an animated chain fist goes down there. Right? I think a radiant halo could theoretically go down there. An egg is like egg has to be low, right? Because there is a thing inside of the egg. There is a thing inside of the egg, but it is like developing, right? So it's going to be really dumb until it pops. Until it hatches, it's going to be dumb. The gate, I can't, like, again, an animated object, I don't see that being smart. Right? I don't see this being a smart thing. I think animated, like gargoyles are literally rocks, so I'm going to assume they're dumb as rocks, right? A tank is like multiple people inside the tank, so maybe you could say like somewhere in the D range or F. Soulgate does spawn units from hell. Soulgate does spawn units from hell, so I have to imagine like they're similar in capacity to like whatever you think the Hellions are, right, in their brain capacity. But it's tough to say. Soulgate also is an inanimate object. So I could also make the argument like Soulgate's an inanimate object. It doesn't have a brain. The units it spawns have brains, but not necessarily the Soulgate itself. The Pee-wee is AI, so you could make it it's as smart as the person that made it, right? That's what someone said. Pee-wee is an AI unit. I don't know if that's true or not. We're going to go with that. We're going to roll with it. The flower, I imagine, doesn't have much of a brain. Let's see. Let's think of things that might be smart. I'm thinking the disciple might be kind of smart, so like A to S tier. We're going to go with the steed. Like anything from the divine race. Like they're angelic units, right? Like they're meant to be all-knowing beings. That's kind of my go-to with some of these. Like anything that I view as not being like just an odd sentient object, I think is going to be relatively smart, right? I think Holy Avenger is meant to be like an angel. Elite Archer is meant to be like something that guards the gates type deal, right? And then Steed, you can make the argument Steed maybe isn't that smart because it's literally a horse, right? That's a tough one. I think anglers are kind of just like they're fish. They might be kind of dumb. We're gonna put like a bull a little ahead of a sentient flower. Monkeys, I think, are gonna be somewhere in the C range. They're still monkeys, so keep that in mind. I think we put maybe like Poda in like the B range. Ranger, I'd have to imagine somewhere in like the B range. Again, this is so subjective. It's really a lot easier to say like this is really going to be a smart unit or a really dumb unit. And I think we can make the argument like D tier chef, dude's just he's burnt out, he's brain dead, right? We're gonna put the chef again in D tier because he also smells bad. I think we put C tier, mostly just animals, where they're gonna be like, you know, they're gonna be able to sustain themselves, but we don't know exactly their true intelligence. Oof. Troll says, the chef can cook, so that's smarter than most people watching this stream and or video. So maybe we bump him up to C. Maybe we bump up to C then. I like that. I think the plane's going to have somebody inside of it. And to fly a plane, you got to be somewhat smart, right? That'd be my assumption. You got to be smart to fly a plane. Now, that's a subjective that's a subjective thing, but I'm thinking you got to be smart to fly the plane. Warg is going to be tough. I think it's kind of Warg is almost like a hyena that's got some like human characteristics. So it's tough to say. You can maybe make the argument he'd be more of a thing up here. It's tough to say. Is APS actually manned by a person, Mufine, or is it just a sentient object? It's tough to say. Same thing with the Millennium. If you want to argue that the Millennium and the APS are manned by people, then you can maybe put them in the up top. Yeah, the Pee-wee's AI, from what people keep saying. Right? So if the Pee-wee's AI, and if you want to make the APS AI by that logic, sure, you could put it up top. And if you want to say the same thing like with any of the mechs, then sure, you can put them up top. It really comes down to how you want to read them. We have no way of knowing it's manned, but there's like a capsule to it, right? Like this is a person pod for the plane. I don't see anything where a person can get inside the APS. There's a cockpit, yes. There's a cockpit for the plane. Now maybe it's just like similar in design because of some random BS. Again, no idea with a sand badger. I think it's just a sand person. We can maybe put infiltrator somewhere in the B tier-ish. Like, it's kind of hard. Like, the D tier is, like, just random shit. The D tier is random shit that, like, you think is going to be dumb. So maybe you put, like, some of these tanks down here, because I don't know what a sand badger is. I know monkeys are at least somewhat smart. You can maybe put your animals, some of your animals that are, like, just big, broody animals, right? Like, think about it like this. These are your big brutes. They don't really have much brain capacity, maybe. I'll go with that. Bees are actually rather intelligent for their small size. This one's tough. This one's tough. Smell one, you can like make a somewhat general assumption. Right? Smell, you can make general assumptions. But how smart they are is kind of tough. I guess, yeah, you can make the argument pigs are intelligent. Pigs are intelligent. Same with bees, right? Wild shroom's literally a fungus, an animated fungus. We're going to put that down in D. I can't imagine an animated rock. I can't imagine an animated rock is going to be that smart, right? What are we are we assuming Zerker is a person? Are we assuming Zerker is a person? No. Robot? If we're assuming Zerker is a robot, we put him up higher. Right? Robot, smart. That's just what we're going to go with. Okay. Aquas probably aren't that smart. They're sentient water. Like, I don't see any reason for that being smart. Now, are we going to assume that the Zukas are people, right? Or are we assuming they're AI as well? Infantry dumb? Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. We're going to put them somewhere in there. Upgrading it, though, to a Zeus. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You got to kind of look at it, right? I'm looking at it as the whole unit here. I'm looking at the whole unit. We're putting the Pee-wee in S tier because it's an AI and we think it might be smarter. We think it might be smarter than some other units. Grarl's a fish, right? And we're gonna stick with the objects, the objectives of like what we've also put in here for fish animals, right? Like I think I think the Grarl's probably not very smart. I don't think frogs are smart, right? Don't think frogs are smart. Are we going to go with this? Birds are relatively intelligent. If we go with birds are actually really pretty intelligent most of the time. I'd say at least on par with like a pig, right? At least most birds are going to be on par with a pig or higher, or a monkey or higher, depending on the bird, obviously. Bone Warrior is literally an animated dead dude, so I'm going to say stupid. Yazora's at least a some type of... It's a fox lady. We can't say the fox lady's dumb. Again, bird. It's a bird human, so I'm going to put it a little higher, maybe. The bird human gets a little higher on the list, because we're going to assume it's got the intelligence of both a bird and a human. We're going to go with it. Harpies, bird, and human. Rat. Can't imagine... Well, rats are not that dumb. But it's one of those things they can be trained to be smart. Are they smart right away? That's the hard part. Mask is an animated mask. I can't imagine they're very smart. They're no brain. We're gonna say no brain on the mask. So that's it's a thing. We're gonna say the Phoenix probably higher. Probably higher because again it's a person and a phoenix. I mean it's like it's a bird person again. We're gonna go with that like bird person-y thing. But yeah, Mudman's hardened when they like instinctively feel danger. So we're gonna go with that's like. Are you saying a crocodile's intelligent because it snaps things and it can sense things like? It feels that someone touched its face, so it slams its jaw shut. Like, does that mean it's smart? Then we're gonna say like I think Lord of Death is very similar to like the Bone Warrior in the sense that it's a dead thing that's not gonna be smart. But no, Mudman doesn't choose. We choose for Mudman when it hardens. So we're going to go with the fact that the Mudman isn't very smart, and we choose for it. You can maybe make the case because... Well, okay, let's look at it like this. Lord of Death is a... We're gonna put it as like it's a warlocky thing, right? So it has to have some type of magical knowledge. Yeah, Lich, right? Lich. So it has to have some type of magical knowledge. So it's probably going to be up there a little higher. But then would you argue Gateguard is the same thing? Right? I think Gateguard is just summoning anything. It's just got a dog that it brings with it. Or is this also some type of like summoning function? I think that's what I'm going to go with. I think the Gateguard is just like it has a dog that it brings with. Cats can be relatively intelligent. I'm going to go with the Eternal Wanderer. If we're going to go with like he's been alive for millennia because he's eternally wandering and he's a ghost thing, I think he's probably B or A tier. Sea Serpent, I don't think is going to be that smart. Nightmare, I think is probably somewhere in like the D to C tier. It dies a lot. If you guys have played Nightmare, Nightmare literally will just sprint in front of everything and die on purpose. That thing is dumb as rocks. Okay. Priestess is a healer, right? Not Priestess. Pilgrim. Pilgrim's a healing unit. You got to be at least a little smart to know magic. Gotta be at least a little smart to understand magic. I don't know, man. I understand the idea of Gateguard being C tier because it trains something beneath it, but I've known some really dumb people with dogs. Doesn't mean they're smart. Just because they have a dog doesn't mean it's smart, right? I'd actually make the argument that because it has dogs and it probably doesn't deserve the dog, it might be stupider. I think you could make the argument, since the Windhawk casts spells as a bird, you could place it higher because of spellcasting ability. I mean, you could make the argument that a Lich would be higher. Oh, I know some really dumb people with trained attack dogs that are just aggressive to everything that moves. Doesn't take much to make a dog aggressive. Doesn't take a lot to make a dog aggressive. We can make the argument too that if we're gonna go with everything else in the mech race is like AI driven, the tank is also AI and probably higher. If we're gonna go with like that, if we're gonna go with the fact that it's a AI. I think that's a valid argument, or at least something to be made there. And I don't necessarily think like the tier of a unit makes it smarter or dumber, right? It's just its ability to do things is different, right? Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that just because a Nightmare is high on the tier list, right, that it's a smart unit all the time. It's kind of a subjective thing, though. This is a very interesting idea, though, of arguing if a unit's smart or not. You see, the reason why I say like Angler might not be too high is it's kind of a humanoid, right? It's a humanoid fish, in some sense of the word. At least I would argue like it's a fish that's been possessed in some ways. Bone Warrior could maybe be made higher. I'm also kind of going off the fact that like they're dead, or they've died and been reanimated. So do they know everything, or do they just know enough? Right? Or like it kind of becomes a sentient thing where like is it smarter because it's now sentient, or is it bad? You know, like I could see Bone Warrior just being a controlled unit, right? Like something that puppets them. Its upgrade can cast a spell. Yeah, if we're gonna go off spell casting being higher, then sure, you could maybe move it up to like C tier. But like, I think the Bone Warrior itself is a puppet unit. You think Yozora Wanderer swap? You can maybe make that argument. But I think like Wanderer has been alive for millennia too, right? Like that's kind of the idea. This is a tough one. This is actually much tougher than smell. Much tougher than smell. Anyway, I'm going to end it here because this is now getting subjective where we're going to argue about shit forever. So I'm going to just say this is where it ends. I'm going to say this is where it ends. You can make your own tier list if you feel like I did something wrong here. I think no brain ones at the bottom. It's kind of like pretty obvious, right? Like these guys are all just like sentient objects. I don't know if like they're gonna be really that smart. You could maybe make the argument for Hellgate being higher, but a lot of the animals are gonna be lower. And then things that have like either humanoid traits, spellcasting, or have been around for millennia, or AI go higher up. You can start kind of fiddling with it from there, though. But for the most part, if you like the video and like these shit tier lists, like the video and subscribe to my channel and check out all my other guides. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Peace.